This is big. We're going to be talking about some possible trades that have the Chicago Bulls sending off Zach Lavine and receiving a player like Brandon Ingram or Keldon Johnson. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and this is another episode of Bulls Digest. And today we're breaking down an article that was written by Greg Swartz, and he has three potential targets for each NBA team, and he's also going to go ahead and really detail a way in which the Chicago Bulls could get a player like Brandon Ingram, and we're going to be looking at another suggested trade that he has where the Chicago Bulls could get Keldon Johnson. And so the other prospect that the Chicago Bulls might be looking to acquire is going to be Corey Kispert from the Washington Wizards. And so we're even going to talk about a scenario that has the Chicago Bulls getting him. And with each scenario, what we're going to do is I'm going to add into these trades, and I'm going to show you possibly how the Chicago Bulls could move on from assets that really are not going to make a lot of sense with the way the Chicago Bulls are building their current team if they're heading towards this youth movement. All right, and so here we go. You can find these articles on Bleacher Report and heavysports.com if you're looking to see those. And so I'm first going to throw up the draft picks that are going to go in there, because you're not going to see that when we look at the actual screenshot of the trades. And I will say this, with the trade assets, I'm not very much a fan of that at all. I think that I want the Chicago Bulls to hold on to as much draft assets as possible to continue to build out this team. So I'm going to put that out there as well. And so here is this first particular deal, which would net us Brandon Ingram. All right. And so this would have us getting Brandon Ingram, Andrew Wiggins. We're sending off Zach Lavine to Golden State. Vooch is going over to the Pelicans. Gary Payton II over to the Pelicans. Kevon Looney. And then we're sending over a 2025 first round pick. We're sending over a 2028 and 2029 second round picks. All right, and so what that looks like in full detail, and we're going to add a little wrinkle to this particular trade as well. This is going to ship off Jevon Carter and also to Torrey Craig. I think that both of those players are going to want to be in better situations. I think Jevon Carter has come out and said that he wants to be in a situation where he can play. He feels like he can get into some actual rhythm by getting some playing time. And I think that Torrey Craig, it's been noted that this is a player that a contender might be looking to get and acquire. Like, he could definitely help a team that is looking for a stretch 3-4 that can knock down some three-point shots, can provide some length on the defensive end as long as he can stay healthy. And he's a veteran that really gives you a nice presence to the locker room. And so here's this first particular trade that I suggest out of this, and it is Jevon Carter going over to the Washington Wizards. We would pick up Corey Kispert here, who I think is a lot like a Joe Harris and a younger version of a Pat Covington for the Bucks. And then with the Pelicans, we're going to send him, or Torrey Craig over, to the Pelicans, and we are going to get Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who played with OKC. At one point in time, he got close to 20 minutes a game. He averaged 7.5 points a game and 5.6 rebounds a game. More importantly, it's an expiring deal, and he is 6'9", so he could absolutely help our front line. And so, just reflecting on this particular deal, I think that with the Washington Wizards and the Chicago Bulls, that trade for Corey is going to be a bit of a stretch, but I'm not sure if, Corey is going to fit into the Washington Wizards long-term plan. He is on an expiring deal. Maybe the Washington Wizards would like a guard over there that can, show this team how to be a professional, how to win some games out there. And so I think that maybe that is the selling point to get Jevon Carter over there. You're trying to build an identity for your team, so maybe he goes there. With Torrey Craig, look, the Pelicans have been listed as that team that could be sneaky good in the West, and a lot of people over there think that, well, if we have a healthy Zion Williams and we build around him with a good enough veteran presence, that they can actually make some noise. And so Torrey Craig is a guy he's going into an expiring deal. So you're not really taking a whole bunch of risk with him. If it does work out well, then you have a player that can, again, help you on that front line defensively, can knock down the three ball, which is what you want, especially when you have players like Zion going to the cup and attacking the paint. They're going to draw too, so you want to be able to kick out and knock down shots. So maybe that is, potentially a contender or a team that is going to do well enough that I think Torrey Craig makes a lot of sense for you. And so next, we're going to modify that deal a little bit more, and I have another situation in which we could move off of Torrey Craig and Jevon Carter as well. And this is, again, going to be a bit of a stretch, but we're going to get a young piece back that I think this team, maybe he's not in the plans again for their particular movement and where they're going. And so we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. I say that we would send Jevon Carter over there to the Bucks, where he was pretty good with the Bucks. He's going to pick up a lot of backup point guard minutes here, and I think he's going to be a real factor. Torrey Craig goes over here. He's going to be able to knock down the three defensively, help this Bucks team, which they needed because they were terrible defensively. And this is more of a win now situation for the Bucks. And for the Bucks, they're sending over Pat Covington. All right, and Pat Covington, again, it's a 2-year for a 2 essentially when you send over Jevon Carter. I'm not sure if we're going to keep Pat Covington, but he would help us as far as getting better as a 3-point shooting team. And he's more like a more athletic Duncan Robinson to me. And then the young piece in this would be MarJon. All right, and so what would the Bucks want to do there? Because they're not necessarily using him now, and I think that Doc is more in a win now situation. And so I don't know if they would be willing to part ways, but I think they might, because they didn't necessarily play him enough. And this is a player that I think gets over to the Chicago Bulls. We get a chance to experiment with and see if it is a player that in fact could work out for us in our young core. And so that is that basic modded deal that I have went ahead and done. So let me know what you're thinking between those two. And so lastly, we're going to look at a 4-team deal that would net us Keldon Johnson. And so there is going to be a little bit more to that Keldon Johnson deal. And before we hop into that, I just want to say that with that Brandon Ingram situation, we would be getting a player that is 26. He's getting close to 20.9 points per game, 5 rebounds a game, and 5 assists a game, and he's shooting right around 49% in total. We're getting an expiring deal there, and with Andrew Wiggins coming over, I know a lot of people are probably cringing on that, but he actually saves us some money, because in the 24-25 season, I think he would save us, or 25-26, I'm sorry, I couldn't get that out, but he saves us close to about $4.5 million, and then for the long term, it compares to Zach Lavine in this sense that we would be paying 84.7 for 3 years for Wiggins versus 138 million for Zach Lavine if we were to keep him on the books. And so that's where financially it would help out the Chicago Bulls. Now, this next particular deal, this 4-team deal, the Chicago Bulls are going to have to shed 5 players to make this work. That's number 1. Number 2, I do not like the draft capital in this particular deal as well, but we are going to get some expiring contracts back in this deal. So that is another thing to take a look at. And these are some young pieces that we are taking a chance on as well. And so this is this author, which is Greg Swartz, who suggests this particular trade. And so with this, you're looking at Keldon Johnson coming over, Terrence Mann, you have Bones Highland, you have Amir Coffey, and then for the Clippers, they're going to get Bradley Beal. They're going to get our 2nd round pick in 2025, a 2028 2nd round pick, and a 1st round pick from the Suns in 2031. The Suns received Norman Powell, who is going to give them a bit more of a youth scoring punch, and then you also get Zach Collins, where they need a big. PJ Tucker, I think they need a defender as well that helps them. The Spurs get Zach Lavine, a player that Coach Pop coached up in the Olympics, but we would give up the 2029 round 1 pick. And then with the Clippers, you have Kawhi Leonard, you have Bradley Beal, you have James Harden. Perhaps they can make that work with that situation more so than it worked in Phoenix in year 1. And with us, again, look at all those ones. We have expiring deals in Terrence Mann and Highland, and then also too in Kofi, so we can go ahead ahead and shed those salaries or flip them out if we don't like it. And then with Keldon Johnson, well, this is huge for us as far as the salary cap is concerned, because he is only going to be counting for about $17 million as we get ready to head into free agency with Kobe White and Ayo. That's a lot better than what we would have been doing had we had Zach Lavine on the roster for the duration of his contract. So that helps us out there. And there's a real chance that Keldon Johnson can become a 20-point scorer, maybe even better than that. So these are players that could fit into our current youth movement. And so with that being said, what do you think? Do you want to go with deal one, where I suggest that we make a move with the Wizards and then we also send Torrey Craig over to the Pelicans? Do you like the deal that I proposed, where we would get an interesting young piece back from the Bucks, and then the Bucks would get some players that perhaps help them in their win now situation? Or do you like this last deal, where we would have to shed 5 players to make it happen, but you would get some young pieces back, and more importantly, it is going to help you with some salary cap relief down the line? So let me know in the comments what you are thinking on all 3 of those trades. And I just want to thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing this content, and let you know that 65.6% of you that watch the channel are not subscribed. So make sure you continue to throw it up and slam dunk on that subscribe button for me. It means a lot as we try to reach 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season starts. And even though we're talking about these hypothetical trades that probably aren't going to happen, I'm saying go Bulls. And as usual, I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.